Hey, how's it going, guys? Il est radio today, Bukum. Poboricha Bewo. ¿Cómo se dice?
What I promised.
Here with the life of Oduduwa, which I had promised to you guys. And it's my first full life in English. So you guys gonna have to bear with me. Because it's strumbling.
Struggling?
Strumbling. Like shopping. Like you gonna start making fun of me already? Well, you guys know my English is all messed up, but I'm gonna try to do my best. Hi Richard, hi Milagros. You will do great. I'm sure, Michael. Thanks for the support. But I don't think so. But
Yes, you are.
I'm gonna try to do as best as I can. If you guys can like the live and share it, please. I am looking to get a little bit of more English speaker followers, English follower speakers, and yes, that is my purpose, to go out there and reach the English community. So the English speaking community. So I decided to do, I have a live that I did a long time ago on Oduduwa in Spanish, obviously. And it turned out to be pretty, how do you say éxitos? Éxitos. It turned out to be very successful. There we go. My father from Google Translator.
Yes.
It turned out to be very successful, and I want to try to do this in English now, because when I don't make a lot of lives and broadcasts every day, because when I speak I try to make my words better than my silence. So when there's something very important in the religion these days, and is ache. Because when we say that we give ache, it is not like we're giving a soup of bowl. It's to transmit the person the capacity and the teaching with which we, the godparents, our teachers, manage to reach the place and position in which we find ourselves. So it's very important. Chucky says, thank you so much. Oh, Chucky, my godson, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it going, my godson? You're one of the reasons why I'm doing the life in English, so you gotta stay put, because the life is gonna get really good. We're gonna talk about palo, malongo, mayombe, and we're gonna start off with Oduduwa. Who is Oduduwa? Where did Oduduwa came from? And just for the record, a lot of the things that I'm gonna say, I have like the reference, the sources. It's been Ifa in the Orisha book from Charles Spencer King, the Sense Maye book by David Garcia Gons, the history of the ancient Benin Kingdom and the Empire by Dr. Orunmila, and the African Genius, an introduction to African culture and social history by Basil Davidson. So just to let you guys know that what I'm going to talk about today is not that I came up with the information. It's something that is part of the history. It's something that is the truth, and it's something that I prepare myself to speak. You know, give me the book of Ochemeli. Before I start, I'm going to show you guys the book of The Truth of Ochemeli, which is available in English. Here's the book already. Yeah, it's really nice, really thick. Has about 500 pages. And this book, people, it is the best of the best. I have a lot of pictures here. More than half of the book is some information of about Ochameli, and then the other half of the book, it's I have around 530 pictures of ancestors, Oriateses, Obases, and you guys can purchase the book at davidalagayud.com. You know, we only have 80 people connected. It's normal because most of my followers are Spanish speaker, but we'll see what comes out of this. So when we talk about Oduduwa, we gotta realize that Oduduwa in Cuba became an abrupt theology, and the first thing that we have to take into account and keep in mind is that Oduduwa from the beginning of history was feminine. Oduduwa was not masculine. That's what it said, masculine, and not how they transgress it, like they transgressed Oduduwa over time, making it a masculine. Oduduwa from the beginning was not masculine; she was feminine. And in the book, Peoples of the Slave Coast in West Africa and the Religion, Manners, Custom, Laws, Language, etc. in 1894, written in 1894, it says, Oduduwa or Odua. It's a title of Ija Abe. Ija Abe, which means the mother who receives. And is the main goddess of the Yoruba, and on Yoruba land, she, Dudua, she's always represented as a seated woman, breastfeeding a child, and that is also why Elis and Adewuji are sure that Oduduwa is known for Ijabe, which is the mother of the widow. I don't know how to say widow in English.
The widow of James.
No, the widow, the widow of the sun, the little round widow. Well, whatever. And Oduduwa, we have to realize that she was the wife of Obatala, and according to what they say, Oduduwa was blind. Oduduwa was a blind person. At the beginning of the world, she and her husband Obatala were locked in the dark, in a large, closed gourd, and Obatala at the top, and Oduduwa was at the bottom. Then Oduduwa began to complain, blaming her husband for locking her up, and there was a violent fight between both of them, you know. And in the course of which, in a moment of rage, Obatala ripped out her eyes. Obatala ripped out the eyes of Oduduwa, and because she did not stop her tongue, in exchange, she cursed him and said, "You will not, you will eat but snails." Oduduwa told Obatala, "You will eat snails from now on," which is why now snails, the slugs, are offered to Obatala. Obatala won the fight against Oduduwa, but Oduduwa cursed Obatala. Enrique Vera says widow is an African drum. Yeah, but we're not talking about that widow. We're talking about the little widow of Hossein. But yeah, blessings, Jose, Enrique, everybody that is connected. We're talking about Oduduwa tonight, and it's my first live that I do in English. So if you guys can just please share the live and give a like to the live, so you can give me some sort of motivation for another one, because after this one, I don't think I'm gonna be doing another one. But let's see how this one turns out. Then this story is also collected by Dennett in his book At the Back of the Black Man's Mind, and with its variant by Lydia Cabrera in her book El Monte, all of which lets us see that there is no such thing as the theory that Odudua does not, he is nothing of the king of the dead or Obaegu. If not the goddess of love and Obatala, the good procreation. For this reason, in the land of Ado Egbado land, the name of Ado is born, which means lascivious, sexual uncontrollability, uncontrollably, from a love story that Odudua had with a hunter, and in honor of it, Odudua, he was named after the love that he had with the hunter in the land of Egbado. Joseph August says, bro, you're doing fine for the English. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, bro. So we have to keep in mind that this theory that came from Ifa and Babalaos from these last couple of years, and now that Oduduwa is the king of the Eguns, you know, this is a recent theory that came a couple of years to now. Because on the origins of the origins, in the beginning of the beginning, Oduduwa was never... she had never had nothing to do with what spirits, you know. So one of the translations of the name of Dudua is Odutodaiwa, which means the vibration of good character creates the vibration of the good character that always creating stuff. Iwa, according to the Yoruba language, is character, being, life, destiny, and heaven. Has in the phrase or that has been lost of Iwa Orisha. But who has gone to the land of the ancestors and divinities, Iwa here becomes the pattern that forms the word Oduduwa. But we're going to see a couple of translations of the name of Oduduwa. We're just beginning with this because this is going to get even better. So according to Uli Bayer, Oduduwa is an ancient earth goddess who already existed in the Nigerian area before the arrival of the king Oduduwa. Because one thing is Odua and the other thing is Oduduwa. One thing is the historical person that became a queen or a king, Oduduwa, and the other thing is the Irumole de Oricha that was called Oduduwa. So undoubtedly, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Indudablemente. Undoubtedly, this conquering king who came from distant lands assumed this name to identify himself with the most enduring goddess of the people. This theomorphic name was consecrated as a very powerful of the earth, and Oduduwa is the mother of the earth, the black earth, the ancestral mother of the earth. So, you know, now the most modern writers in Africa insist that Oduduwa was a woman. That has never been put in doubt. And she helped Obatala, being the creator of the human race, they both, as well as the norms of social life in Ife, where it has its most important temple and those of its worshipper. So Oduduwa is considered to be the wife of Obatala and the main goddess of the Yoruba pantheon in Africa, especially in the land of Ife. Under the intentional influence of the colonists and evangelizers, based mainly on the Babalawos, Oduduwa has been twisted into a high male god, a bisexual god, and a deity that does not represent Earth. All kinds of misrepresentations have occurred against Oduduwa precisely because it is the quintessential, I guessed it because I have never pronounced that word before in my life. Quintessential feminine principle representing the mother earth and the Anago nation. This name, Olodumare, was precisely one of Oduduwa's nicknames. So, as I said, blessings, my abure, for who the master in anthropology and languages. So, you know, Olodumare was one of the nicknames of Oduduwa. Larissa said another Burus in English. Yeah, Larissa, we have to be a little bit bilingual here. So this is going to be like a bilingual life. Now, the land of Ileo Gere Afokoyeri, which is a word that the Babalaos use in the Ijoje, there is a land that is called Ileo Gere Afokoyeri. The one that is calmed with a... Okay, that does not sound right, and I'm not going to pronounce it. It says Ho. H-E-O. H-O-E.
Where is it?
I wrote that, then I don't know what the translation is. Okay, that does not sound right, guys, because I wrote here, I translated in English and says the land of
No, don't
the
say
one that is
word.
combined with the.
Don't say that word. Let me try to make it one of yours.
Oh, I think it tried to say hole, like a hueco.
A hole. Yes.
Yeah, hole.
Hole.
Hole? Well, with a hole. That is what, you know what a hole means, like
Oh
un
my God,
hueco.
I'm gonna have way too much fun.
Everybody's everybody's laughing. Yeah, sorry guys, it's that one thing is hole, the other one is
No.
hold, like when you're holding something and then I'm doing my best, guys. That is why Oduduwa was the one who consecrated all the ochas with the, you see, it goes again. Hole with wish is talking about un hueco, un hole.
A hole.
Yeah, a what?
A hole.
A hole. So, Olofin is one of the okay, Colorado. Olofin is one of the Sukerfo, I don't know how to pronounce that, names with which an attempt was made to name the supreme masculine god. Now, Olodumare, both names were nicknames and the goddess of Odua before the fall of the Oyo Empire. So in the Oduduwa divination system, Oduduwa manifests itself in the snake that is not poisonous. When you guess with Oduduwa, when you do divinations with Oduduwa, there must be a snake where you can guess with it. It speaks for 36 snails, and its oracle has 36 odums that are drawn into turtle shell covers. These are called katas, which you write it tapa, and then they call it katas. So we're talking about here something deep. We're talking about the divination system of Oduduwa, because it's a different divination system that does not have nothing to do with Ifa or Dilogun. But it's with Dilogun shell, but it's with 36 Dilogun. You know, Oduduwa's image is a woman, it's a woman that is sitting on the ground with a little boy in her arms. Only the woman and men, sons of Elegba, could be the priest of Oduduwa. So in Yoruba land, only the woman can be the priest, can be priests of Oduduwa. And if you are men, only if you are an Omo Elegba, you can become a priest of Oduduwa. Otherwise, you cannot be a priest of Oduduwa. Whether you're an Aboreorisa, Oba, Babalao, it doesn't matter. If you're not a woman, or in the man, in the masculine part, if you're not a son of Elegba, you're going to be a priest of Oduduwa. Now, Oduduwa's children are consecrated as 12 years of age. Oduduwa does not go out during the day or on cloudy nights. It comes out under the stars, and especially under the 4 full moon nights. And the night always lives and walks with Oduduwa. The night, it's in Yoruba, you say night Makundu, which is Ma, ancient mother, Ekun, leopard or panther, and Du is black. So Makundu, which were called the tribe of Oduduwa, it's the ancient mother, the leopard ancient mother that is black. So I deserve one small break, my little cigarette. You guys gotta bear with me, people, because I don't even know how I'm doing this in English. This is like very complicated for me in English. And a little slower I have to do it. Thanks for telling me that they cannot understand my accent.
No, I'm just saying that you have to do it.
Yeah, thank you, man. So Mary Noon says, I love this. The Ogboni Society was founded to honor Oduduwa. Have any of you guys heard the Ogboni Society before? Okay, this society was founded to honor Oduduwa, and the ancestral mother of the earth and the worship of ancestors who return to earth. Now, from the ranks emerges the greatest officer of the empire who still decides on the king. And it is a gerontocracy, well, that deals with social order, legislation, and has ruled. Sorry, guys. Call just came in. You're doing great. Thank you, Caroline. At the same time, the rituals are religiously organized. Now, Oduduwa's name comes from the word Odu, which means hollow in the earth and sacred. Odo means hollow in the ground, has in the word Sodorisa, and then Iwa means dig or open. So these investigations come from Pierre Berger, who writes in his lucid article, The Supreme God of the Yoruba. Now, according to Ipiga, Orisha means he who has sunk a pot in the ground, because it is customary among the Aimos to bury a quarter of a pot in the ground for their followers. This pot is called Odu Orisa and contains the image and the necessary articles for its to worship. Now, separated from Oduduwa, the earth mother goddess, and the Ocha is incomprehensible. How do you say that?
Incomprehensible.
Incomprehensible.
You said it correct.
We cannot separate Oduduwa from the Mother Earth and from the Orisas. Why? Because about 900 years, King Oduduwa was about 900 years later, and our people were the people of King Lamurudu, the father of the future King Oduduwa. His father's name was Lamurudu, who left their origins, for the Ile-Ife area. The central concept of the migration is as follows. King Oduduwa came accompanied by a people and an army. So otherwise he would not have conquered the areas he arrived at. This town and army needed food and all kinds of elemental survival elements, which proposes that they had to travel with herds of animals, and that they made a large number of stops and camped for different normal and accidental situations such as sandstorms, water storms, river, grown, etc. Now, the theory of the how do you say that word? Provenance?
Prominence.
Provenance?
Prominence.
Prominence? That's not provenance. It has a V.
Provenance.
Provenance. Okay. Now, this is the theory of the provenance of the Mecca. The theory. No, Mary, and check this out. It gets even more interesting. This is an article that I wrote many years ago, and then I did a live about it in Spanish. It's called ¿Quién es Oduduwa? It's on YouTube. And now I'm doing this for you guys in English. I had to translate all this, and it's a little complicated for me. But I'm honestly speaking, guys, I'm trying to do the best I can. I know I don't sound that good, but I hope you guys understand me. We're going to talk about the theory of the provenance of Oduduwa from the Mecca, because a lot of people say he comes from the Mecca now. Alleged origin and starting point of Oduduwa towards Ile-Ife, which is speculated to have come from the Mecca. This journey would mean 6,000 kilometers, which is like 3,200 miles, through rough terrain, full of dangers, lack of water, fearsome sandstorms, neither by a highway without rest or setback. This journey will take 90 days on foot. This journey would take anybody 90 days on foot. Yet horse, donkey, and mule existed thousands of years ago through Arabia, South Arabia, Egypt, and Europe. and the lands of sub-Saharan Africa, the Monserga, the writing of the orally transmitted is unscientific above all. So scientifically speaking, or proven, it's impossible that Oduduwa would have come, especially alone, from the Mecca to the Yoruba land, because it would have taken 90 days on foot. It's a distance of 3,200 miles from South Arabia,
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Saudi. Oh, Arabia Saudita. They understand me. And from the Orunmila, it's 3,200 miles. It's a lot. And back then there were no donkeys or horses, or because we're talking about maybe 1,000 years ago, and you know, and it would leave a king and a people who did not possess horses or a cavalry army very badly stopped. Now, when we're talking about the Mecca, the most foolish theory, despite being clearly distorted and improbable outside its time, knows that Oduduwa was a king in Mecca, the capital of the Muslim empire. It seized the largest mosque, destroyed Muslim symbols, and established pagan idols. This fact is absolutely absurd and impossible, guys. The Monserga or writing continue to say that they were attacked and forced to flee to Africa and to the south, to the lands of today's Nigeria. This journey would involve 3,500 kilometers through rough terrain, again, absolutely wild and full of dangerous animals, sandstorms, river fords, and sometimes rivers impassable by the flow. Throughout lack of food and water, excessive heat and the sun, and freezing cold at midnight. Dangerous animals, sandstorms, you know, like we said, the population factor of the area is also ignored by the writers. An image of the army of the Kanem Empire that was in the path of the king of Oduduwa they show it to you, like, you know, the books and stuff like that. This empire is said to have been formed by the nomadic Sagwahas. Thank you, Luz. So, you know, other towns with, and mind you, I already named you guys the sources where I got this from, so you guys will know that I'm not like coming up with this. I named several writers, several authors, several anthropologists that know way more than us. So, you know, this is like a fact. Other towns with walled cities and cavalry armies cover the area of the pass of King Oduduwa and extended east to the valley. Ivory Coast, Gold Coast, and there were other cultures such as the Gene, like the easy exactly cross into the road to Ile-Ife, and so many communities that it was impossible for Oduduwa to bring a strange theory of kingdom to Yoruba land. Now, however, the essential aspect of the wild thesis that the king of Oduduwa came from the Mecca is the following. The irrational idea that the people of Lamurudu, you know, the father of Oduduwa, and Oduduwa, which named in the beginning was Ekalanderan, the Oduduwa's name in the beginning was Ekalanderan, could invade the largest mosque in Mecca and carry out such outrages does not correspond to the polytheistic mentality of the people. It must be remembered that Ile-Ife was the house of the 400 gods. This fanatism is imposed by the fundamentalist and sectarian mentality of Nigerian Almoravids and Babalaos these days. So they express themselves as if Mecca were a village and the people of Lamurudu and their son were monotheistic fanatics, and it's crazy. In the same way, the Obaibo Yamaya family and the children are already spoken of in Cuban and like the Wahidos and stuff like that, who lived in a hut. The custody of the seal of the Muslim and the power of their powerful bellicose and extremely religious state made such an event totally impossible. So this would have been scientifically proven impossible and totally impossible. And if it had happened, if it had been possible, they would have been annihilated not so much by the army, but by the very people who were extremely loving of their faith. All of this is observed as if today a group of invading people were to take the church of St. Peter in the Vatican and destroy all of the images and establish pagan idols. So like it's impossible. This thesis is totally anachronistic, but has the anachronistic and false reigns throughout the OSHA, both in sectarian deformation and in specialist complacency. By the 1900s, the Arab onslaught on I can read this anymore. I'm by page 5, and it's like 33 pages.
Where
Yeah, the Oduduwa life that I did in Spanish was 3 hours and a half.
Yeah, I know. Pero what part are you at?
I'm here. I'm just. Ya me desaparé ya. San Pedro, this thesis. What was Lamurdu and his black people doing in Mega? Continued it as a kingdom. Constituted as a kingdom. It is claimed that his son and his people were Lamurdu Arabs. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't want to keep all this anymore. I don't know if I should keep on, guys, because it's getting a little difficult for me, and I don't even know if you guys are understanding what I'm saying.
Just take questions from people that have questions about Oduduwa, whatever questions they have about their religion, and then you'll be able to put that into. Let's prepare that, and then you can do one next week. You want to do that?
I don't know. Nobody's commenting, right?
Not yet.
Everybody's just watching.
Mm-hmm.
So let me read here where it says, yeah, Mary, it is a lot. The live that I did on YouTube was 3 hours and a half. In Spanish, you're doing great. You're all right, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Well, the culture of the king of Oduduwa and the people which culture they belong to, their culture was literary. That is, it hardly belonged to a culture of books. Did they abandon the power of writing and reading voluntarily? Impossible. The Monserga that lived in the Mega does not take into account that it was impossible to live and have at least enhancement in this culture without knowing how to read and write and go to the Quran readings daily. The this girl, she's not great. You're doing it okay. Well, thank you, guys. The misrepresentation of history, the ignorance and the apathy of the specialists have allowed such illogicities, anti-scientific elements, ridiculous comic strips, and patriotic arguments. Are we or we not? Here's to King of the Dua people. Okay, I am going to go up to a little best part. Okay, the war between like the famous war that everybody wants to imponerle a la gente. The famous war that people want to impose that Oduduwa had with the Batala, and that supposedly Oduduwa won Batala the war. Now, a myth tells of a great war between Oduduwa and a certain king of Baibo, which were allegedly was Obatala. Now, Oba Igbo was never, it could have never been Obatala. Why? Because this myth is a reminiscent of the conquest battles that the army of the later king of Odua had to carry out to conquer the area and establish the empire. Oba Igbo was a king in the Igbo land who adored Obatala. Oba Igbo was a king in the land of Igbo that adored Obatala. But Oba Igbo was never Obatala. It would have been impossible that Oduduwa defeated Obatala when Obatala was one of the first kings in the land of Benin. And Oduduwa was just somebody that he was coming from another land. Now, the city of Ile-Ife already existed before Oduduwa's arrival and had fortifications, possible walls, and, of course, armies. Could they be defeated by a people without an army, and especially without cavalry forces? Lamurdu, which was the father of Oduduwa, were royal rulers of a nation-made people and of an ancient pagan inculturation that made him repel Christian Muslim. So the fundamentalists and migrate south, possibly following well-known routes, not only by merchants but ancient routes, perhaps were millennia ago. They reached the Egyptian empire of Muslim Egypt and Christian Nubia.
Read the last comment from Alex.
Yes, Alex. We're not here mixing nothing. We're gonna get there to what you're talking about. I'm talking about the first start when Oduduwa ever started, because people don't really know who was Oduduwa. The historical personality, the historical character, the historical person that existed as a person, you know, like you and me, of Oduduwa, the guy that was named Oduduwa. People don't know who that guy was. People just know the Orisa Oduduwa. And there's a big, huge difference between the Oduduwa Orisha, the Irumole that we adore, and the real historic person that on who Oduduwa was. So it's not about mixing. We're not here mixing nothing. We're explaining to people who Oduduwa was in his very beginning. And this is like a very long life, probably lasts like 2 or 3 hours. So you will have to hear me out for like 3 hours and then make a fair judgment, if I may say. Now, how and with what means did they dare to start more than 5,000 kilometers? Okay, I'm gonna get to the good part because I don't want you guys to get bored. So, could King Oduduwa confront this population by going on foot? Yeah, I have a lot of things here that I wrote down myself and I translated it in English. I'll probably just write a book about Oduduwa in English because talking about it is a little complicated.
That's nice. You want to answer a question?
Hold on, let me see here. Now, it says, because this is a theory that I wrote down, if Oduduwa came from the Mecca or he did not came from the Mecca. Now, we have to ask ourselves, what if forces were left over in Mecca and Arab culture? Why did they migrate on foot? Because supposedly Oduduwa migrated on foot. It has been established that the entire army, a whole people, and Pharaoh, I don't know how to say this, Pharaoh, precisely, class lived in the Mecca and migrated on foot, confronted all of the town and walled cities along the way and conquered the existing cities in the Nigerian area on foot. This is absurd with the semi-knowledge of the table of Moses in the Bible. The inventors of the hoax imitated that pilgrimage with all of it, all of the errors. So Moses' pilgrimage lasted more than 30 years, and his journey was 3 times less than the journey of the king Oduduwa, supposed to have walked from the Mecca. I'm talking about the journey that people say that Oduduwa came from the Mecca to the Yoruba land. You know, Moses, he took 30 years for the journey that he started, and the distance was 3 times shorter of the distance that Oduduwa supposedly walked. So likewise, they copied the punishment of the menstruation of the woman, the gods who came down from heaven and separated woman from the divine and the female priesthood. All of these aberrations, how do you say that? Aberrations were written by the man. The people of King Oduduwa maintained their ancient culture that came from the time of the first migration and brought the style of Assyrian hardness installed in Egypt from decades. Now, the chronology of King Oduduwa says that it's impossible union with Orunmila. We're not going to talk about the association with Oduduwa and Orunmila. That people say Orula, some of them say Orunmila, but the original name was Orunmila. Orunmila. Why? Because since this chronologically could never have been known, and we will talk later about, we're going to talk later about why Orunmila and not Orunmila. The arrival of Oduduwa and Ile Ife, it was 1,000 years. 1,000 years. And then it says 1100 1300, destruction of Ile Ife founded by the king of Odua. Okay. The empire of Oyo was founded 1500 years after Jesus, after Christ. 1600, 1700, 1800. In 1891, the English Empire destroyed the empire of Oyo. At the end of this century, the Babalaos arrived together with the Islamic invasion and the civil wars and destruction of the empire of Oyo began. The destruction was carried out under the Christian Islamic pincer, but especially with the English invasion, which in turn had destroyed Benin and ended up destroying the Ashanti, just as NATO and the US have destroyed Iraq, like that, Afghanistan, Libya, and it intended to do it with Syria, most likely too. So, chronologically, the king of Oduduwa never lived with Babalaos, and Orunmila did not belong to the gods of Anago pantheon. Every Pataki or Itan or history that tells that Orula accompanied Oduduwa to the foundation of Ile Ife, and any narration that assimilates them, it is an anti-historic hoax simply because of the chronology of the time. Oduduwa could have never met Orunmila. Now, every image that unites Oduduwa with the symbol of the Babalaos is a representative image, and figuratively speaking, what? Figurative speaking. Not to say the false words. Because when Orunmila arrived with the Babalaos at the Oyo Empire, it had been more than 300 years since the old Ile Ife. Now, Oduduwa, of course, had died almost 1,000 years before Orunmila appeared in the picture. The Monsergas and kingship writings between these two are nothing more than attempts to relate them and take the lineage of the ancient tradition into their own hand. The same is true of the king of Oduduwa region in Mecca. King of Oduduwa armies invade the Ile Ife area and establish an empire that it is, how do you say that? Heyday? Heyday? Well,
heyday.
Well, it is heyday and reach the lands. No, Mariam, we're gonna get into deep stuff now because history it's imminent, it's important, and a lot of people just talk Odun, just talk it, and just talk out. And a lot of people they think they own the truth, but when you ask them about history, they're like, oh. Let's talk about Odun because I don't know nothing about history. So the history is very important because, like Albert Einstein said, the man is nothing without history. So we are part of history, and history is what makes us. So this is what I'm talking about here. Very few people are going to value it or appreciate it because this is for smart people, guys. This is for only the 53 of us that are connected here. Questions: if Oduduwa was or is a woman, why is there a statue of Oduduwa in Nigeria depicting him as a man? Abdul, well, there is a statue of Oduduwa as a man because of the same reason I'm talking about. The Ile-Ife, they adapted and they wanted to own the culture of Oduduwa, and they made him to see as the warrior that got to Ile-Ife. Now, there's a big difference between the warrior Oduduwa, male guy that came from Nupe to Ile-Ife, and a big difference of the Orisa, Irumole, Oduwa, which is feminine. Oduduwa is masculine. Odua is feminine. Odua is from us, the Olorisha, and Oduduwa is for the Babalaos. It's two different deities with two different spiritual meanings and two different ceremonies. And like Babalaos say, Oduduwa is us, and they're falling into the ignorancy that Oduduwa is one thing and Odua is another thing. Oduduwa is the warrior that got to Ile-Ife, and he was a warrior, he was a guy, he was masculine, all that good stuff. He was never Yoruba. Oduduwa was never Yoruba because Ifa came from the geomancy Arabic, the geomancy, how do you say it? Arabic geomancy. That's Arabic geomancy. Mm-hmm. That's where Ifa came from. So Ifa became part of the Yoruba in the late 1400s after Christ. Now the cult of Orisa was always Yoruba. In the beginning, from the 2000 years before Christ, that Obatala used to guide. He used to be the king in the kingdom of Benin. And you can find this in every book: the kingdom of Benin, the kingdom of Dahomey, and in those times the women used to have more, like they used to guide the tribe and stuff like that. It's a little bit hard for me to explain it in English, but
you're doing great.
If I came from the Arabs, what? Arabs. If I'm going to talk about Ifa, where did it came from, after I finish talking about Oduduwa, because I haven't even started on everything I have to talk about Oduduwa. So all of this began around the 10th century of our area, which was known as the Iron Century. It is elementary that the invaders had gods and priesthoods, and that a new theology and priesthood was formed. In fact, the earth goddess of the area was called Oduduwa. The invading king took the name of the goddess to constitute himself on earth and the gods. It was the golden age of Anagos civilization, and the streets of the main cities were covered with clay tiles. They have been discovered in Owo, Ifaki, Ikerin, Ede, Itaji, Ekiti, and Ikare, and further afield in Ketu and Dasasume, and the people of the Republic of Benin as well as in the Cabres district of Togo. During all of those centuries, neither the Babalaos nor Orunmila existed as persons has such. Every history of Pataki that affirms it is a contraption to manipulate stories and lineages. 500 years later, something happens. The disappearance of soil fabrication techniques was probably due to a catastrophe that struck Ife in the 16th century. The most plausible hypothesis is that. Oh my God! Take them off.
Yeah, one moment.
And please, that's having that guy here is embarrassing. That guy doesn't even talk Spanish. He's gonna. That disappearing. That's funny. Isn't it? Oh my God.
That is funny.
This guy just made my night. Now, if Benin and the UNESCO carrier in 1984, page 5, on the a new civilization was possibly established, baby, help me pronounce this word.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which word?
Originating from the city of the Oyo. This empire of Oyo had gods and priesthood at the same time that there were no Babalaos, and Orunmila was never around. So, by then, el disciple, ¿no? Yeah, definitely. Oh shit, no? So, by then, which was Ifa, Fa, which is the god of destiny, came out of the earth with his 14 eyes, and only Elegba, Eshu, could open them. And this path road of Elegua was Elegua Banokwe. And the Oricha Elegua, I can't read it right. And the Oricha Elegua was the one who received the most offerings in the Anango pantheon. In no way was he hungry, nor was he a street sweeper and garbage collector. Like a lot of people think, Eshu is a garbage collector or something. Eshu was none of that back then. Now, when it comes to the order of the years, I'm very thirsty. On September 29, on the 29th of September, 643 years after Christ, the Arab General Army, armed triumphantly, entered Alexandria, and Egypt was occupied by the Islamic. The Muslim wave conquered all of North Africa, and crossed the ocean and devastated the Visigothic culture of Spain, crossed the Pyrenees and put France in check. But something held it back for almost a millennium, the Anago nation. So that's when I hear people talking all this nonsense that if I came from Egypt and if I came from yesterday I was talking to a guy that I'm not going to say his name, out of professional ethic, and he was like, if I is 60,000 years old, I'm like, are you out of your mind? How are you going to say if I is 60,000 years old? It can't be. It's impossible. And when you go to the facts, and when you go to the literature, and when you go to the books, and when you go to anthropologists and theologists and people that know way more than us, it tells you that if I came from 1,300 years ago till now, 1,200 years ago to now, the Islam with its great formative, I'm gonna skip all this because a lot of people don't really care about this, but King Oduduwa people must have been one of those highly pagan population that resisted conversation and the okay. Who had not yet appeared was the god Orunmila and the Babalaos. Here we go again. Now other sources say that Oduduwa came after the Islam. We see that the Islam reaches north of what is Nigeria in the 9th century after Christ, obviously, and was well established during the Canaan-born Empire during the reign of Helmi in the year 1085 to the year 1097 Islam reached the southern Yoruba during the reign of Mansa Musa, which was from 1312 through 1337. Here we can see that the dates between which Oduduwa may have lived coincidence with this Muslim penetration and in the area and at a relatively recent time in history. In fact, if Islam is created 635 years after Christ and Oduduwa, according to many Ifa verses and traditional stories, indicates that he knew the Muslim community, it makes it impossible for him to found a city 500 years before Christ. That's what a lot of people in Nigeria and Cuba says. Oh, Oduduwa founded the Ile Ife 500 years before Christ. It's just impossible. It's ridiculous. So Oduduwa was born in a town called Igodomi-Godo, which is the capital of the Sudan, which is located in the sub-region of West Africa in Central Africa. Now, Oronsaye wrote that the last king who had the land of Igodomi-Godo was called Owodo. The king was called Owodo. In the year 1068 after Christ, Owodo had murdered his mother and his father, which was the Ogiso Arigo, and he discovered it. Owodo had a secret wife named Imade, who was pregnant with their only son, and the son was Ekalanderan. Now hear me out now. And did not take her to his harem until they pursued him. Owodo, however, had a strong passion for Queen Esago, who had been the wife of her late father and fell under his influence. Okay. I will say that, Larry, at the end of the life because I said it at the beginning of the life. Queen Esago was known for being a huge woman who believed herself to be a witch and who practiced lesbianism. In addition to Esago, Owodo married... What?
They're fake profiles, so just blog it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the fake profile. Okay. So, Owodo's biggest problem was the failure of his numerous wife to give him children, and this caused many fights between the wives of Owodo, and he became convinced that he should consult the oracle. Owodo sent Queen Esago and 3 men to consult on her behalf. After consulting, the Obiro ordered that Esago to be sacrificed. But Queen Esago bribed the 3 men to report that Owodo's only son was the cause of the problem and he should be executed. Due to the Queen Esago problem, Ekalanderan, which was Oduduwa, was taken to the forest and banished along with his mother Imade. Now, Ekalanderan joined his friends and moved near the sea. Oduduwa joined his friend and moved near the sea, where they built a new city called Ugoton. Ugoton was a city that Ekalanderan, which was the name of Oduduwa, Ugoton was a city that he built. Since life in Ugoton revolved around the sea, he used the water and sea creatures as symbols, preserving virtually a lot of the rituals practice of Zoroastrianism. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It's a big ass word. Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism.
Yeah, you said it right?
Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism.
Associated with the Iso temple. Now, this new temple was known as the Olokun temple, and this was the origin of Olokun worship. He appointed a priest for the temple who followed him into Oyo, but later returned to Ugoton, where his descendant continued as a custodian of the temple. So Oduduwa's followers were the one who established the cult of Olokun in the land of Ugotong. And then they moved to Oyo. That's why Olokun was always Olokun was always part of our. Era de nosotros los santeros, I don't know how to say that. Olokun was always of us. The Obao, the Ateses, the Oloricha, we always used to give, we always used to give, and we are the one that gives Olokun. Babalaos give Olokun too, but it's a different type of Olokun. It's not the same of Olokun, the same Olokun. The Olokun of us is called Yemit Derebe, the feminine side of Olokun. The feminine, not the feminine side of Olokun. Olokun is feminine from where she was born. As a matter of fact, in Iworimedi, it shows that she was a second wife of Orunmila. And then in Ofumei, it talks about Odua, the feminine. Odua was the first wife of Orunmila. So Olokun Yemit Derebe, which is feminine, which is the Olokun that we, as Santeros, or Baoriateses give. She had a son with Orunmila. She had a marriage and they conceived a son. That son wanted to be just like Olokun, but Orunmila said, if Olokun Yemit Derebe said, if you name my son after me, he's gonna destroy the whole world. So the Olokun Yemit Derebe, the feminine, decided to name the son that she had with Orunmila, decided to name him Olokun Senia de Asorodayo. So that Olokun Senia de, which is called the full name is Olokun Senia de Asorodayo. That Olokun is the one that Orunmila deified to him. And that Olokun is the Olokun that Babalaos give, which it represents, or it is the son of Olokun Yemit Derebe and Orunmila. I don't know if it was a little.
It makes sense.
Well, it's not that it makes sense. I'm trying to see if what I'm saying makes sense, because my English is very bad. But the history is a proven fact, and they have that in the Cuban diaspora and the African diaspora, and they have that information all over the English books. John Mason, Faguwe, the Falokun Fatumbi, and all these people. This is like legit. So for many years after Ogiso, Wodo's wife remained sterile, Owodo sent another team to see the Obiro. This team discovered that the queen Esago was the cause of the sterility of Owodo's wife and should be executed. While the Ogiso should consult Obiro, Owodo ordered Esago execution, but was unable to consult the Obiro as instructed. Now, due to this failure to consult the Obiro, Owodo could not be instructed on how to repair the abominable adulterous act of lesbianism in the land of Esago had practiced with his wife. Since Owodo's wife did not make an atonement to the Iso in the temple with the bear goat and other objects to the spirits of Owodo's fathers, they remained sterile for a long time. Now let me jump into good stuff. One of the most important relevant points of this is the fact that in order to seek some kind of supremacy to Oduduwa, they gave him an origin in the Mecca, which indicates to us that by the time the Muslim knew him as Ekalanderan. So Prince Ekalanderan, okay, the Oduduwa's real name was Ekalanderan in the Arab, in the Mecca, in the South Arabia country. When Oduduwa, his name was Ekalanderan. When Oduduwa got to Ile Ife, that's when they titled him Oduduwa. because they were waiting for a king, and they confused that king for Oduduwa, and they thought that the king that they was waiting for, it was Oduduwa. So that's why they crowned Ekalanderang as king, and they named him of Oduduwa. They named him Oduduwa, and they did him a statue because
Block.
Okay. Okay, guys. We are. Please stay with me and don't read this other guy's comment. He already got blocked.
No, sorry, I didn't block him. Just to read his comment.
Okay, I'm gonna block him because obviously this is a fake account, and you know we are here to learn, productive. Yes, Celine, I know he's not the guy, but still. So, Prince Ekalanderang has already indicated was the only son of Ogiso or Wodo. It is said that he was born around the year 1070 after Christ, and that his mother was named Imade, the secret wife of Ogiso in the Owodo land. However, the date seems to be debatable and doubtful. In according to new studies, Oyo was founded by his son Orunmila around the year 1300 after Christ. So if the founder of Oyo was Orunmila, and if the founder of Oyo was, bear with me guys, if the founder of Oyo town in Nigeria was Orunmila in the year 1300 after Christ, and Orunmila was the first son of Oduduwa, it's impossible that Oduduwa was born in the year 1070 after Christ, because that means that there's a difference of 230 years that we doubt that Oduduwa could have lived, or Orunmila lived more than 105, 110 years. I mean, it's just impossible. No matter how mystical they were, still less in a country, the current life expectancy does not reach not even 60 years old in the middle of the modern area. The truth is that there may be some exaggerations in the dates, but the reasonable thing is that we can say that Oduduwa could have been born in the midst of the year 1200. So it's reasonable to say that Oduduwa was born around the year 1200 after Christ, obviously, so that a son of him, which was Orunmila, could have found of Oyo. O sea, para que soy, what? Founded Oyo. I'm trying not to speak Spanish. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying. Oduduwa couldn't have been born in the year 1070, and then his first son, which was Orunmila, founded Oyo in the year 1300. That's a difference of 230 years, which was impossible. Norman Roman says, so he was crowned as a king by mistake, but he developed his kingdom. Definitely. That is a very reasonable comment that we can say that's what happened. Well, because tradition tells us that he was a mystic destiny for great things. The queen is like, oh, okay, Ekalanderang grew up as a top princess, good looking and obedient to the Ogiso. Okay. Now, over time, when his sex was misrepresented and the Ifab writings began, it was written that he was proclaimed king of the title of Oni, and his name was changed to Obao Lufon Imadoduwa. Obao Lufon Imadoduwa. The Oni of Ile-Ife. Since then, all of the rulers of Ile-Ife have adopted the title of Oni. All the elders and chief of the town of Ile-Ife accepted him as king and paid homage to him by kneeling and bowing before him as a sign of respect. Now, this version of the legend also says that after his coronation, he established a great pantheon on the side of this palace. There he lodged the various deities that he had known and venerated in Ile, in his house, during his leadership of Igodomigo. Juan Gonzalez says, but didn't the fathers of the Bible, such as Moses, Abraham, live hundreds of years? Is that a gross exaggeration as well? Juan Gonzalez, it is impossible. I mean, I have studied the Bible a little bit, and it is impossible that Moses and Abraham have lived hundreds of years. Let me tell you guys something about the Bible. It's a proven fact that the Bible is written hypothetically, en sentido figurado. The whole Bible is written in terms of hypothetical. Nothing of what the Bible says really happened literally. Everything that the Bible said was written in hypothetical terms to domain a world or a community into the beliefs of the Hebrew Jewish people. So that I agree, but I was looking for you to admit or agree. Thanks, Juan. Yeah, it's just scientifically impossible, anatomically impossible that a person can last more than 115, 125 tops years old, and that's just, impossible. And there's no person in history of mankind that have lasted more than 115, 116 years. So let me jump into some good stuff here now. It's all right, Juan. I mean, I like those smart questions because that means I can distract myself with like all the things that you're asking me, and I can just answer them, and I don't because if I focus a lot on what I'm saying, I don't know. I'm getting a little bit discouraged in this because I don't think I'm doing good, because everything I do in life, I like to do it almost perfect, and this is not as close as perfect, but
yes, it is.
My wife is so sweet. Very good. You're doing great. Thank you so much, Margarita Escalera. Now, this version of the legend also says that after his coronation, he established a great pantheon of the Cyrus Palace. There he lodged the various different type of deities that he had known and venerated in Ile. During his leadership of Igodomigodo, among them were the Iso Temple, the Olokun Temple, the Ogun Temple, and so many more. In addition, he ordered the construction of a large garden in which he ordered the cultivation of each known plant. He also cultivated a forest behind this garden that was the home for both benevolent and malevolent spirits, as well as animals associated with the deities of these temples, such as swallows, locusts, and so on, and what they count. Now, in his palace, he was surrounded by many practicing soothsayers, doctors, and healers. He married his first of other wives in Ife and had many children for him. At the time of his mother Imade's death, so the mother of Oduduwa died. Remember, we said that Oduduwa was born in 1970 after Christ. The mother of Oduduwa, which was named Imade, she died around the year 1140. She died in the year 1140, and he was already blessed with 27 sons and 17 daughters from 5 of his wife. That's what the history says. In accordance with the tradition of his ancestors in Igodomigodo, his holy land, He began to send his children in various parts of the Yoruba land, such as Ekiti, Ijebu, Ijesa, Egba, Ondo, and a bunch of others. All of them were installed as kings of these populations, and the eldest son, Aibobo, whose pet name was Omonoyan, given by his grandmother Imadeb, was appointed as his successor to Oni for the kingdom. But certain events and circumstances in Godomi Godo caused his father Imadodua, which later the name of Oduduwa, to send Aibodo as a king to Igodomi Godo. Now, even though Benin's oral history tells us that Ekalanderan Imadodua arrived at present day in Ile-Ife and was welcomed with open arms, which was impossible, another story shows that this was not at all a peaceful, and that Oduduwa had to take the siege by force. This gave rise to the war between Obatala and Oduduwa that lasted 10 years and that ended thanks to Moremi. Now, this story that had just been narrated is obviously fictitious and erroneous, for what was already explained in this life, since Oduduwa and Orunmila have never met. Orunmila was a nickname of Elegba. This sounds a little out of the box, but it's a fact that one of the nicknames of Elegba before was Orunmila. Elegba is the Orisha who is the Orun Hollow. This is the site that he has been called the domestic door. And Orunmila means the hold of Orun. The Orisha that is in the hold of the Orun, and Elegua, Maua, Ranile, Orun, the one who has the passage of the Orun in his end. And for some reason it was invented that Orunmila was buried up to his waist, which it wasn't true, simply to cover it with the emblematic figure of the god divination who came out of the earth. The corresponding name for the moment was Orunmila. Orunmila. This is how Fernando Ortiz knew him. Fernando Ortiz, the Cuban writer. Fernando Ortiz used to name him Orunmila, not Orunmila or Orula. So this was recorded in ancient literature and writings where the word Orunmila does not appear once in its ethereal, I don't know how to say that word, but ethereal interpretation has only, because people, Babalaos in these late years has given the ethereal interpretation of Orunmila has only heaven knows those who will save. But this is very, this is false and erratic. Not because I say so, but because all the authors that I named when I started the life, and I'm gonna name them again when I finish the life. There were high priests and priestesses of temples and cults of the other gods, and the Babalaos were restricted solely and exclusively to guess with the technique of the Inquines. They did not guess with nails. They did not make issues. Babalaos before, they did not guess with nails. They did not make issues. Babalaos didn't used to make issues. They did not sacrifice for other gods. They didn't used to kill animals. They did not define the guardian angels from any believer. They did not know the liturgies, stories, and myth of the other gods. They did not write intuition poems there where women were said to be hypocritical and treacherous,
treacherous,
and not to exercise as priests. And above all, they did not elaborate patekis, where they lower all the gods and assign their sacred powers. By then, Ifa, the god of destiny, came out of the earth with his 14 eyes, and only Eshu was. Richard Perry says, there is no Ba out there with this much theology knowledge, either English or Spanish speaker, so you're doing beyond good. Thank you so much, Richard Paris. That's very give me that word. Any word. That's very que me alienta. No, man. When you look back here, you're supposed to be my translator. Richard is giving me a very good compliment, and I'm trying to tell him that it's very inspirational.
Okay, inspirational is very good. It makes you feel really good.
You're not helping me. I'm helping myself.
I know. I'm sorry, but I'm reading something else.
Okay.
While you're doing that.
What are you reading? What you doing? Okay. So, okay, guys. Thank you so much for the compliment. At the fall of the empire at the hands of the English colonial power, the entire ancient religious and priestly system was destroyed, and supplantations began in ignorance. So when we talk about Orunmila or Orunmila, its original name was Setilu. Orunmila real name, so I'm just gonna say it like everybody used to say, Orula's real name was Setilu. The word Se means emerge, Tile, earth, Ilu, belly. So the word Setilu means who emerges from the earth, belly. So the one that arises from the earth, where he is buried up to the waist. That's what another theory says. In this poem, the heavenly god of Orunmila tries to take over the ancient tradition that divining gods arise from the earth. That is why it comes from those unfamiliar that it is attributed the name that indicates to be buried up to the waist. The writings say that the creator of the Ifa system was called Setilu, without etymology or explanation whatsoever. So the Ifa cult was introduced into Yoruba lands by a certain Setilu, which was Orunmila, from Nupe, who was born blind. Orunmila was born blind. That is why no Babalao can have any defect or be blind or be without one hand, because Orunmila was blind. And Setilu was not perfect. We have a lot of, we have a lot of literature, fidedigna, how do you say, like real belief?
You have literature? What kind of
literatura fidedigna, literatura muy creíble.
Credible literature.
We have a lot of credible literature. I mean, not only me, like thousands of people around the world that tells you this. But you know, Setilu, that was Orunmila, that came from Nupe, he was born blind, which is why his parents wanted to kill him when he was born. Now, however, this became a very unique character for these divinations. Thanks to this, he achieved a comfortable life. That motivated the Muslim to expel him from the country. Setilu, Orunmila, is said to have crossed the Niger River to the south and reached the city of Benin, where he lived for a time, where Obatala used to reign, the kingdom of Obatala. Then he moved to the city of Owo, and then eventually he moved to the city of Ado. Finally, he settled in Ile Ife, Orunmila, which was called Setilu, as a diviner priest. Here, he achieved fame and popularity as a doctor and healer. He indoctrinated several of his followers into the arts of divination over time and became the oracle. and became the oracle that everyone consulted in Ile Ife only. At which time Oduwa founded Setilu, Odusuwa, which has nothing to do with Oduduwa, I'm sorry guys. Odusuwa founded Setilu, and it was during the reign of Ofinran at the throne of Oyo that the cult of Ifa was officially recognized. Now, Odusuwa was a worshipper and a descendant of Oduduwa, but was never Oduduwa. Now, get this, guys. Oduduwa did not meet at any time and place before with Orunmila. These two Orishas, or these two persons, never met before. People started thinking that Oduduwa and Orunmila had association because there was a person that was called Odusuwa, and Odusuwa was a worshipper of Oduduwa. And Odusuwa, he helped Orunmila found his kingdom. So I don't know if you guys understand me, but and we can get this information from the book of Adrian de Souza, The Orishas in Africa, Social Sciences, Havana, 2005, on page 118. On page 118, this is just one of the bibliography that I can give you guys, so you guys can know that we have like credible sources, you know. Guys, please, if you guys are connected, share the live, like the live. We only have 50 people connected, so just share like in 1,000 groups so everybody can see it. Share in as many groups as you can. So Setilu original name was Orunmila or Orunmila. Was the one that brought the cult of Ifa divination of the Arab Muslim geomancy to the Nupe land, and there the Ifa cult was founded long before Ifa. That is what the writers say, you know, a lot of writers say. But the problem is that the writers and history date that the Nupe territory was not founded until from the 16th century, which is 1500s after Christ. So Orunmila started practice Ifa and around this area from the 1500s to the 1600s. Thank you so much, my godson Jojo. Thank you so much. So when we thank you so much, Celine. I hope you do more videos in English. Well, guys, help me and share the live so like everybody will know that I'm doing this in English, because if only 50 people see it, then it's like, you know. So by then the mystical Tisoirid arrived from the northern lands of Igala, the Ark of the Niger, founded in the Nupe kingdom. Nupe was an original and powerful kingdom until the Hausa Fulanis invaded it and destroyed its culture. This was in the early 1800s. So only at this time could an Almoravid being emerge with overly Morobite ideas and techniques. Now, so that Orunmila could never be together with King Oduduwa in the creation of Ile Ife. In the year 900 years after Christ, there was simply no Orunmila, no Setilu, no Muslim technique, no Babalawos. 900 years after Christ, when Ife was founded. So, you know, Mary says you could do very well with Otomi. What's Otomi mean? Now, this fact defines that the Setilu Orunmila Arose was born and lived only after the Muslim conquest of Nupe, where Oduduwa had died half a millennium ago. Now it means that one who was expelled from the Muslim land at Mecca in Saudi Arabia was Orunmila, but not Oduduwa. So by this theory, it says that the one who came from Mecca and the ones who was expelled from Mecca was Orunmila and not Oduduwa. If the arrival date of Ifa, the Babalaos and Orunmila to the Anago country was from the 1700s to the 1800s, Orunmila could never be together with Oduduwa at the founding of Ile Ife. It's just not. So why don't we talk about when was the... You guys want me to talk about when was the first pataki was written or invented?
Yes. Of course we do.
That's something cool. That's something that people don't talk about.
Yes.
So when was the first pataki or itan be made or written? It was not when King Oduduwa of Ile Ife existed. It was not when the Empire of Oyo existed. Not even in the 1700s. Not even in the 1700s, when the Babalaos were accepted as fortune tellers in Yoruba under the direction of a woman. Babalaos used to be directed by women. The first pataki was made after the year 1891. In 1891 after Christ, obviously. Everything was this after Christ. Before Christ, the Irúnmoles Orishas were in the earth. After Christ, the people that were representing Orishas was in the earth. So the first pataki was made after the year 1891, at the fall of the Oyo Empire, when the English colonial invasion devastated the ancient material and spiritual life of all Orishas and the Babalaos in alliance with the Christian priests. At the occupying authorities carry out the conversion of the infield Anago in faithful believers in monotheistic gods, including Orunmila. So the first pataki was invented in the year 1891 because patakises are just a hypothetical history for the person that's getting a reading could understand better the concept of the reading. It's just vivencias, how do you say vivencias?
Lived, there were stories of persons that lived at that moment.
You know, pataki at the beginning of the world, or how the world was created. After then he arrived in Nigeria and Columbus discovered the new world. At the beginning of the world, the Almighty Olodumare, the owner of all things, this is a pataki I have for you guys. He first created 7 crowned princes for the encouragement and training of the princes. You know, we gotta see that what Olodumare does first is to care for the male princes and not for the other beings. Since all of the princes are male, he then created 7 very thick pumpkins full of akaba and 7 sacks in which there were shells, pearls, earth, and you know, like a bunch of other things, and 21 iron bars. In this way, it is confirmed that the world was created according to the wisdom of Orisha after 1492. Then corn was known by the old world. Okay, this doesn't make any sense because the translation didn't went through accordingly. And the old Lukumi tradition was destroyed by the English imperialism in 1891.
That is correct one.
What?
One says that this is why they vary due to the interpretation of the repeater.
What does that mean?
Okay, the pataquis, they're depending on the person who's explaining it, that is how the person is interpreting what you're saying. Yeah. So the pataquis change because it depends on how the person is describing it.
Okay, let me see what I'm gonna talk more here. Now, we gotta say that Ña Rosalia. Now we're gonna get into. Thank you so much, Jojo, my godson. Now we're gonna get into more of a fun aspect of Odudua because I'm gonna talk about Odudua in the Cuban diaspora. Mm-hmm. But before that, I need some Cuban coffee, so I'll be back. I don't know if... okay, I have 100% battery, so I can take this out. I'm going to get some Cuban coffee, and now we're going to get into the good stuff. Because now we're going to talk about who was the first Iyal Orisha that brought Odudua to Cuba, who was the first Babalao, well, not that brought Odudua to Cuba, but they started the cult of Odudua in Cuba. Who were the first Babalaos on receiving Odudua? Who was the first people on receiving Odudua? Who gave it to who? And who started all this, cult of Odudua? So now the conversation we're going to have now is going to be a little bit more interesting because you guys are going to understand it a little bit better. So bear with me. Let me drink some Cuban coffee. I have a headache of thinking too much. Because English is improving as you speak. Thank you, Juan Gonzalez. The issue here is that I never speak English. I never talk English. So, yeah. It's getting there. So you guys want to know a little bit more about how the Odudua came into Cuba and in what years the Babalao started to do Ifa, when they were receiving Odudua, and how they started to give it to Santeros. But Odudua originally was a cult that have always belonged to us, the Ororishas, Babalaos can also give Odudua, but they kind of said that we, the Santeros, cannot give Odudua because that would be something very ignorant to say and illiterate at the same time. So, this lady, Ña Rosalia Abreu Efuche, that for others, she used to be called Victoriana Rosarena, and Monserrate Batero and Ña Timotea Bear Latuan, they all three was of Oyo origin and worked with Ekbados. Now, Odudua in Africa and Cuba was always practiced by female priests. Now, the fact that Ifa Odudua has been detached from the Ochas, this does not detract from Ifa's Odudua, since Ocha has valid or even more than the Odudua of Ifa. In the past, when Odudua was delivered, it was led by Olorishas, along with Orieteses. And we used to give some participations to Babalao. Some in one room and some in the other room. Odudua of Ocha is 100% valid. In fact, even the one from Ifa has to carry a snail. This has always been the case since Ña Rafaela Odum gave Odudua to Miguel Febles. We got to realize that the person that gave Odudua to Miguel Febles or Dika was not Mamo Serrate, was not Feminita Gomez, like some people say. The person that gave Odudua to Miguel Febles or Dika was this Iyal Oricha and Obasa at the same time that was called Ña Rafaela Odum. The first thing we must clarify is that the inquines that are placed on Odudua do not stop being from Ifa. The only Horicha who speaks through Inquines is Orunmila, and as much as Oduduwa is placed, it is now Oduduwa who speaks, since the Odun of Umeyi is clear when Orunmila sentence, I will speak for you. So when you receive Oduduwa of Ifa, it's not Oduduwa the one who talks to you, it's Orunmila. When you receive Oduduwa of Ocha, it's Oduduwa that talks from the mouth of Obatala, because Obatala is higher than Oduduwa. So Oduduwa lets him speak through him. In fact, those who should refrain from giving up Oduduwa are the Shango children and the Yemaya children. Whether they are Santeros or Babalao, this is based on the Odun Ogunda Ika. In Ogunda Ika, which indicates that in remote times, Shango and Yemaya began to conspire to take down the crown of Obaloran, who was the son of Oduduwa, and he, in retaliation for daring for 2 years, persecuted the sons of Shango and Yemaya for the annual rituals sacrifice. In other words, the sons of Shango and Yemaya, you know, the Oni Shango and Oni Yemoya, served as a sacrifice to Ifa back then because of Oduduwa. And the most suitable to deliver them are the children of Obatala, Ochanla, and Oshun. So the most suitable Olorichas or Obases or Yalochas to give Oduduwa to other people are the children of Obatala, Ochanla, and Oshun. Oduduwa inclusive has prohibitions that are more specific and that even prohibits a person to receive the Babalao Oduduwa and must receive Ochas, such as, for example, the person who has a Yeunle sign on the guardian angel, or Obeche, a Yeunloche, because in this sign Orunmila fornicated with the woman from Oduduwa, it automatically is telling you that you cannot receive Oduduwa of Babalao. In the Yeunle Meji and Yeunloche is telling you that you shouldn't receive Oduduwa of Babalao, because this is where Orunmila fornicated with the woman from Oduduwa. Now, Oduduwa is said to be born in Odika, allegedly, by Ifa. In Ireta Meji, his spirituality is born. Spirituality is born. In Ejiobe, his majesty speaks. Odika becomes a predominant saint in Oduduwa affair due to the influence of Miguel Febles. That's the only reason why they put that Oduduwa was born in Odika, which is not true. It was because of Miguel Feble. Actually, Oduduwa comes down to the earth in Ejeunle Meji, Ejiobe, and his name on earth for a time was Universal Access. Blood bows, that is why in Ejiobe Oduduwa he consecrates other divinities and scratches them. Now, about Ireta Meji, it is not exactly Oduduwa spirituality, but one Odua spirit called Elesemefa. There's Odua is considered the first Oloricha that was initiated by Obatala. Obatala initiated Oduduwa, and Oduduwa initiated the rest of the Orisha. The Odu in which Oduduwa first became to earth was Ejiobe. It is Isalaye. Although there are those who speak of Ojeku Meji, but that is another story. In this context, Oduduwa went down to the chain of the 16 links with a goodbye earth and Agemo, with the earth and the Agemo, and other elements. He threw to the earth on the water, and chicken scattered it in, and the chameleon was the first to feel the firmness of the ground. Then Oduduwa put his soul, being the first Orisha, at least in the tradition of Ife, that's what they say, who stepped in Aye. also giving birth to the Asenta Ye ceremony. The translation of the word Asenta Ye is when you put your foot on the ground. Asenta Aye, put the foot on the ground, which is the kind of baptism in which Yoruba children determine their sign and their destiny. In the Afro-Cuban and Ifa Odua manifests itself more than 160 old, in which, when compared to some African tradition, it's very exaggerated. Now, Oduduwa loaded comes after the death of Kuka Odubi. Oduduwa's fanatism of Ifa came after the Iyaloricha Kuka Odubi, which was a daughter of Oduduwa. She died, and she always complained to Miguel Febles about why he gave it to young people, because they never used to give Oduduwa to young people in the past. Since she was an expert in the subject and always said that this Oricha was for older people in age, and Alan led a descended life. Tata Gaitan Ogunda Fun never had neither her Oduduwa nor her Olokun. Tata Gaitan never received Oduduwa, neither or Olokun, from neither Kuka Odubi or Fermina Gomez. And Fermina never gave it to him. Actually, Tata Gaitan received Oduduwa from the grandmother of Fermina, which was Genjeto Olokun. Remember that Oduduwa in Nigeria is not loaded. Odua source in Cuba, the first Oduduwa source in Cuba was Kuka Odubiji. And then, that's in Havana, and in Matanza was Obatero. The Olokun source in Cuba was Fermina Gomez, Ocha B. The Odua and Olokun source from both in Matanzas were Mama Salina Monserrate Obatero. Now, Tata Gaitan's Olokun fountains comes from Genjeto Olokun. Odua fountain of Tata Gaitan is unknown. Did Odua Tata Gaitan, what did Odua Tata Gaitan have? I mean, Genjeto Olokun and Mama Monserrate made Ocha crown Ocha to Josefa Echubi, which was Remy Herrera, the China's daughter. And Genjeto Olokun and Mama Monserrate are sources of Olokun for Ifa and Orisa. So Genjeto Olokun and Mama Monserrate gave Olokun and Oduduwa to a lot of Babalaos. But this Oduduwa that they gave to them wasn't meant for them to turn it into Ifa and start giving it to other people. Now, when that Fermina was already Ocha, she was born in 1844, Fermina Gomez, and they did it when she was 20 years old and a few years old, you know. Not to mention Mama Monserrate, who died in 1906. Miguel Febles became the star of Ifa after the death of the great elder. The last one was precisely, you know, Tata in 1944. After Tata Gaitan's death in 1944, that's when Miguel Febles started to become a star in Ifa. But whoever questions the preeminence of the Ocha, or the Dua and Olokun on the island, should review the initiation dates of the first Creole Awo Orunmila. They all dated from 1875 onward. There were no Babalaos in Cuba that did Ifa before the year 1875. Every Babalao person that did Ifa in Cuba was after 1875. The group of slaves, Lucumí, the followers of Oricha, got to Cuba in the year 1515. Just a couple of years, like 20 plus years after Cristobal Colon discovered Cuba in 1492. The first ships of slaves started to get into Cuba by the Bay of Santiago de Cuba in the year 1515. The first cabildo in Cuba was made in 1568, And the first Babalaos that had already come with Ifa from Nigeria started getting to Cuba in the early 1800s. 1820, 1825, 1830s. That's where the first Babalaos started to get into Cuba. Bliss, Ño Rangel, Cardiz, you know, all these people way before Remy Herrera at the China. And then Remy Herrera got to Cuba around the 1860s, 1870s. Now, the first Ifa that was done in Cuba was Asunción Villalonga, that was born in 1858. Asunción Villalonga was born in 1858, and his Ifa was made in the year 1878. Ramon Febles Molina was born in the mid of the 1940s. And we also have Bernabé Menocal that was born around that time, and he did a fa in 1880, and his peak before Asunción. Tata became an Ifa priest. Tata Gaitán did Ifa shortly after Bernardo's, after 1900s, and Bernardo Rojas and another guy, Bernardo Rojas, he did Ifa in 1902. So Bernardo was not older than Tata. Now Bernardo's source indicates that he did not have Oduduwa, and if he did not give it to nobody, as in the case of the wrong called Olofin, which was always called Ibaodu, because Ibaodu, it is not Olofin, Ibaodu is Ibaodu, and Olofin is a nickname of a representation they gave to a Batala in earth. But, you know, Bernardo never gave Odua to nobody. If he had it, as in the case of Ibaodu, who was reserved as the branch's greatest treasure, as it allowed control over initiations. The promiscuity of Ibaodu and Oduduwa and many other Orisha who entered to the Afro-Cuban Ifa pantheon comes from Miguel Febles Odica, who used his inheritance and knowledge according to his needs, because nobody saw Bernardo's Odua. Nobody in history saw Bernardo Rojas Oduduwa. So nobody is sure that if he had Oduduwa or not. Now, these are just a few examples which will serve as in this exhibition. David H. Brown counted 37 Babalaos consecrated between late 1880s and early 1900s. So in Cuba, in the whole entire island of Cuba, from the years 1880s to the years 1900s, that's how many Babalaos they had in Cuba, according to David H. Brown. At that time, there was not much discord. Most of the Babalaos worked with Olorichas, as the cases of Abdechinas and Abdechina, Ramírez Herrera and Batero, and Ramon Febles of Betua. They always used to work with Latuan. Now, the law that the Babalao had to be consecrated in Ocha previously, before moving to Ifa, was imposed by Bernardo Rojas, to prevent the increasingly influential Oriate at the time, preventing from the entering the Awoses in the Holy Room. How Oduduwa from Ifa started entering to Cuba. Bernardo Rojas was the one that started imposed that the Babalaos should do Orisha first. So, because in Africa, you see, let me explain something to you guys. In Africa, in Nigeria, in all these places, the Babalao has no job inside the room of an Orisha crown. The only person that guides the ceremony and officiates the ceremony is they call it a Bore Orisa, which is the Baoriate. A Babalao does not go inside a room of Oricha initiation, not even to kill a chicken. Not even. They don't even stand in the door to do nothing. The Babalao has no influence on Orisha. The Babalao, Orisha initiations are off limits to Babalaos. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Orisha initiations are off limits to Babalaos in Nigeria. Why? Because most of them, they don't crown Orisha to go to Ifa. So in Cuba, Bernardo started the rule of the Babalaos that had to crown Orisha before they passed to Ifa. So once they pass to Ifa, they can dominate the room of Orisha. And they can, how do you say usurpar?
Overtake.
What?
Overtake
the job of the Oba Oriates. So, you know, Kuka, how does Oduduwa from Ifa start to enter Cuba? Kuka gives Oduduwa to many contemporaries of Tata. She gives Oduduwa to Pedro Pablo Perez. So what do they do? Celine, the fact of the matter is that Babalaos in a room of Orisha initiation, they originally, from the beginnings of the beginning, they used to do nothing inside the room because the initiation of Orisha are off limits to Babalaos. That is strictly for Iyal Orishas, Babal Orishas, All Orishas, and Oba Oriate, Abore Orishas. Alex de la Vega says, oh, so you're there, Alex. But that is a tradition, that's an African tradition practice and their philosophy. To use their methods with art is a mistake. Well, Alex, it's not that it's a mistake. It's that they start, Bernardo Rojas, like I said, started imposing the Babalaos in Cuba to crown Orisha first so they could have a part of the job. Because there were a lot of Babalaos married to Santeras and Iyal Orishas in Cuba. So Bernardo Rojas told them, there's no reason your wife is going to be a Santera and you're not going to be nothing. So you guys need to crown Orisha to then come to Ifa. So then you can go back to inside a room of Orisha. So you guys can have some sort of participation. And that's how the Babalaos starting to get a lot of participation inside the room of Orisha. And you know, I know a lot of these explanations and theories are from Africa and that we are Afro-Cuban practitioners, even me. But we gotta realize a fact, guys. Chango was not New Yorkin. Chango no era New Yorkin o ni New Yorker, neither Yemaya was Mayamense de Miami. Neither Elegua was from Pennsylvania. You know, all the Orishas has the roots. And the roots of the Orishas are African. You know, I'm not trying to impose nothing to you guys. I'm just putting the history in the hands of you guys. So you guys can do with that history what you guys think is best. You know? And I'm 100% Afro-Cuban practitioner. I don't do nothing of Nigeria, but sometimes... yes, Mary, definitely. It was evolution, and at the pace that this is going, it's gonna evolve even more. Evolve even more. So, you know, Kuka gives Oduduwa to many contemporaries of Tata. Pedro Pablo Perez. Kuka gives Oduduwa to Pedro Pablo Perez of Bellono, which was a very good Babalao, though, by the way. Kuka gave Oduduwa to Hilario Barbón, Oturasa. She gave Oduduwa to Secundino Crucel, Osalo Forbello. Kuka Odubi gave Oduduwa to Arturo Peña, Oturbo Baraife. She gave Oduduwa to Ramón Febles, and among a lot of other Babalaos. So, you know, bear with me. It is speculated that Tata Gaitan never had Oduduwa, because then why he never gave it to any of these Babalaos of the time, and they had to be delivered to him by a woman. So Tata Gaitan never gave Oduduwa to no Babalaos. The one that gave Oduduwa to most of Babalaos was Kuka Oduduwa, Odubi. And this is something interesting, guys, because with this, it proves that Oduduwa has always been a cult that we has Oriateses, Babalorichas, Iyaloricha, and Oloricha has done, like, all the time, forever, since the beginning of this. So why didn't Tata Gaitán gave Oduduwa to his godson Miguel Febles, that was born in 1911 and died in 1986? Who was the Oyubona along with Bernabel Menocal, Baba Iyobe, Ifa Bima Yesi Orunmila? Neither Tata Gaitán or Bernabel Menocal, Baba Iyobe had Oduduwa. Neither or gave Oduduwa to Miguel Febles. I just want you guys to be on the same page with me, because I'm mentioning a lot of names and historical dates and all of this, and you know. Now his grandparents, his babala from Ifa, were Ifa Omi Ogunda Teturat and Olu Ogere Koko Ojekumei, two foreigners of Ifa in Cuba, the grandparents of Miguel Febles. Now, according to some Febles family, his Odua was consecrated, according to others, and according to Leonel Gámez or Chanigua, he received Oduduwa from an Iyalocha, and in the case, the same one that crowned him. It could be assumed that Cuca had participated in this process of verifying that Odika Miguel Feble had been initiated into the secrets of Oduduwa by the Oricha, by the woman. Cuca's authority, Cuca Oduduwa authority was respected in the family since the birth of Eusebia, sister of Panchito and Miguel, was intimately linked to the predictions of the great Cuca Oduduwa. So Miguel is said to have given his first Oduduwa in the 1940. By this time, Cuca would have died already. Miguel gave the first Oduduwa in the year 1940, and by this time, Cuca had died already. Also, Ramon, who lived from 1845 to 1939. Obviously, none of the changes that Miguel claims to have made would have been possible in the area of Cuca and Ramon. Nor can it be said that the loaded Odua, or the giving Oduduwa, was something of a branch, since Babalaos who survived unto the second half of the century, such as Gerardo de las Mercedes, Cheche, or Juan Alaquentu, gave Oduduwa interim and with the same content that unto today Santeros, you know. Gerardo was, black and white, please. Okay. You know, all these ignorant people that connect is just amazing. Gerardo was here to the branch of Ño Carlos at the B of Juan Iboga, an African by nation who did Ifa to both Pedro Pablo and already mentioned among the receivers of Oduduwa by Cuca and Ramon himself. Now Gerardo made Ifa. Gerardo did Ifa in 1910. Remigio Herrera de China had died already. That is, that he lived among the great founders. He would hardly have allowed fraud to pass, which is how many call Oduduwa of Ifa back then. They used to call it a fraud. And now they say that Oduduwa of Osha, it's a fraud. Isn't that ironic? So, when we mentioned the Babalao Ibrahim Covarrubias gave Oduduwa in conjunction with Santeros. Back then, Angel Padrón, the Mokongo, Angel Padrón, they used to call the Mokongo, Ejiobe, who joined the prestigious Villalonga branch started by Francisco Ifabilli and followed by Asunción and his son Angelito, also did not exclude the Santeros in the Oduduwa rites. As a matter of fact, the Oduduwa was guided, officiated by an Oriate, not counting Arturo Peña and his branch as well. Richard Perez says, Oba, quick stop. Odika was Omo Chango, if I'm not mistaken, and he still gave Oduduwa. Yes, Richard, he started giving Oduduwa, but after the death of his madrina, how do you say madrina? After the death of his godmother, Kuka Odubi, he started giving Oduduwa because Kuka Odubi would have never let him give Oduduwa. And in the Cuban side, the sons of Chango could give Oduduwa, but in the African side, the sons of Chango or Jemaya cannot give Oduduwa because the pataki that I explained to you guys of Oduduwa sons and Orunmila. Now, Mamonserrato Batero, whose name means King of Patience, or Batero means, the name of Batero means King of Patience, brings the knowledge of Oduduwa to Cuba. She gave it to Ferminita or Chabi, and Fermina gave it to Kuka Odubi, who also received Yewa from Fermina. Many also say that the one who gave Oduduwa to Kuka was Monserrate herself. Guys, I only have like 20 minutes left in the live, so bear with me because it's going to get better. Now, without Kuka, Oduduwa would not have reached Ifa in Havana or Matanza. Therefore, all the old men that say that he was the one who introduced Odua into the Ifa branch, handing it over to Arturo Peña, Arturo Bombaraife, Babalao of Regla, Cuba, in Havana, according to many, the first to have Oduduwa. Although they are those who assure that it was treated by Pedro Pablo Pérez of Bellono, Hilario Bobón and Secundino Cruzeiro, are also cited as intermediaries in the Odua of Peña. Although they still have left Kuka as a source, both in one case and other versions affirm that it was Ña Rafaela Odum that brought Oduduwa to Havana. With the wave of Ifa and the craziness that everybody have with the Ifism these days, and the abundance, how do you say abundance? Abundance of Babalaos and Ifa treatises. Over time, Olokun became Orisha, the Orisha from the depth of the ocean, while Yemaya became the owner of the seas. When in reality, the protector of the Ogun River, the Medicino, how do you say Medicino? Medicinal? Oshun became the owner of all rivers and other river deities such as Oya, Oba, and Yewa. These are all river deities, guys. They lost the character and were located in cemeteries due to their mysterious links to the world of the deceased. And you know, Oduduwa was one of the deities who changed the character among us from supreme king, head of the dynasty, of the purest owner of the astrality of life and spiritually divine representation of royalty and state. He became king from the underworld, from the secrets of the ancestors and death Egun. Iku, his rank of first ancestor was greatly emphasized, main reason to consider him king of the dead, and his link to the depth of the subsoul, associating him with the dead. So now these days, what they associating Oduduwa with does not have nothing to do with what they used to associate Oduduwa before. I'm gonna make a stop of 30 seconds. I'm gonna go get cigarettes to the room. In the meantime, you guys share again and again this life. Excuse me. And you know, it's the first time in David's Alagayu history of transmission, live transmission history, that I actually have 29 people connected. And you know, it's understandable because 95 or 98% of my followers are in Spanish. And now is that we are catching up on trying to get English followers. So it's going to be a little hard at the beginning, but I try not to get
discouraged.
I try not to get discouraged. I mean, I don't like 25 people connected because, you know, But I understand that I'm doing an English live, and I am about the fewest of Bas Oriate that speaks English. Almost no Oba Oriate, almost none of the Oba Oriateses in the States or outside the States, the United States, speaks English. So, it's kind of understandable why we have 30 people connected to the live. But with the help of you guys, please, if you guys help me share the live and so on, I'll be getting a little bit of more English followers. But now there is a bit of confusion with the Orisha. One thing is Oduduwa and the other thing is Odua as such. In some regions, particularly in the southeast, it is confused with Odua, the primeval goddess of the earth, and considered contemporary with Olorum, considered contemporary with Olorum and consort with Obatala. Odua is the earth, Obatala is the sky. According to tradition, both are united in an eternal embrace, creating the Ibaiwa, the pumpkin of existence, which that is what Ibaodu came from. Ibaodu came from Ibaiwa. Babalaos receive Ibaodu, and we as Obariate receive Ibaiwa in the ceremony of the Obariate energetic work. Oh yeah, don't be discouraged when 25 lessons, 25,000 learn spiritually. Thank you so much, Mary. You're of great inspiration. Now, Odua, British chronicles pick up the Yoruba legend that in a fight, Obatala tore his eyes, and all of this that I explained before. But this legend is also documented by Lidia Cabrera in the Book of Monte. And according to some, Odua in Jemu, and according to others, Obatala in Jemu, in the company of 16 beings, snails. Now, in the Ketul region, baby, how long have I been connected?
I'll tell you right now because it doesn't tell me.
2 hours and 12 minutes? Wow. That's a record for me. I barely speak 2 minutes and 12 seconds English. And I have been talking in English for 2 hours. That's nice. Okay, in the Ketul region in Nigeria, Odua is seen as the wife of a local male deity, founder of the kingdom, and is the main object of worship on the Gelede society of female sorceresses. Its festival are aimed at avoiding the harmful influence of witches, as witches are said to enjoy music and drums very much. Odua, they call it in Ketul region, they call it Iyanla, the Great Mother. Is also a great lover of festivities, and this is the best way to please her. Now, among the Ogbonis, Oduduwa is also revered as Mother Earth. Ile, Mole, Yamole, Ye, all these names. Now, there's a myth in which the traditionalists tell that among the most illustrious descendants of Oduduwa are Serang Millan and her son Dada Ayaka, and the first Ibeya twin was Chango and Naganju. Chango in particular finished the work of his grandfather and father, consolidating the empire of Oyo and political capital of the Yoruba. That is why Agayu direct never was done in Nigeria, because it was considered to be a twin of Chango, although Agayu existed as a person also. And in some part of Nigeria, Agayu really existed, and the other parts, Agayu was a stage of life of Chango, a stage of life of Chango that was very violent road in Chango, even though today they know Agayu has an independent Orisha of Chango. So that is one reason why they never crowned Agayu direct in Nigeria, neither or in Cuba. Now according to traditions, Orunmila is the son of Oduduwa and Ogun. I'm sorry. Orunmila, according to tradition and history, is the son of Odua, the feminine Odua, and Ogun, with Lankanje, a slave that the latter brought his father as a war trophy. Since the young woman was extremely beautiful, Ogun felt tempted and possessed her. Upon arriving at Ife, Odua married the girl and also the guy, and also had relations with him, and 9 months later a son was born according to the myth that was half white and half black. The people were surprised, and Odua understood that her seed and the son of Ogun had contributed to give life to the new creature. Odua was white and unknown, and Ogun totally black. According to other versions, the person responsible for the expansion of Ife powerful was the responsibility of Okambi, Oduduwa's youngest and favorite son. About them, a legend states that they were 16, and another they say there were 7. Today, the Oni Ife is considered to be a descendant, including the living incarnation of the Oduduwa, the 21 of Ba, with the right to Ade, or to the crown, also descended from Oduduwa, which must be confirmed by the highest authority in these matters. The already mentioned sovereign of Ife and Oduduwa founded the spiritual capital of the Yoruba, and he became the father of that land. Oduduwa, the warrior, masculine, not a feminine. So we got the ancestors who had Oduduwa since the beginning of the times in Cuba, who had received Oduduwa, and they gave it to all these babalaos, was Mamo Serrate, Mapaula Alfonso de Cola, Yenyeto Logun, Ña Rafaela Odun, Fermina Gomez, Cuca Oduduwa, Candida Rosa, they used to call her the doctor, Candida Rosa, and Angelita Oduduwa, Julita Oduduwa, and Chea Oduduwa. Now, among many others, if you look closely, not to mention all of the names of ancestors who were followers of the cult of the Oduduwa custom, it was woman. Oduduwa could never have been Obaegun king or queen of the dead, because Oturaniko says, the Odun of Ifa Oturaniko, it says that Olofin wanted to know what was happening in the land of the Egun in Le Lanire, and that Oduduwa could not transmit the message to him, because the secret of the land of the Egun was Odan, the Alamo. Odan is the Alamo. And the secret was kept by Chango. So that was what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to speak about Oduduwa. I concluded what I was going to talk about Oduduwa. If you guys have any questions, you may ask me. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about Palo, about Malongo. I don't know if you guys want me to talk about Palo a little bit or not. I mean, it's been 2 hours and a half with this live. I used to do this 12:30 at night.
If they have any questions, have them ask questions. Maybe they have questions about what you've been talking about.
Do you guys have any questions of what I've been talking about? Juan González en Sara Malek.
Juan, yes.
Malek un bacón en Sara, Juan. Well, guys, I am going to upload this live to YouTube, and I'm gonna edit the name because I'm not gonna talk about Palo today. I'm gonna take off the name of Palo Mayombe. I'm just gonna leave the title of live on Oduduwa, and I'm gonna upload this video to YouTube under the title "Who Was Oduduwa." So if you guys want to find this video in YouTube, you're gonna be able to find it in "Who Was Oduduwa." Larry Lorenzo says, "Can a Babalao be presented in the Osha room even though he can't do anything? Be present." Well, if the Babalao had crowned Osha, if the Babalao did crown Osha initiation before he passed to Ifa, sure he can be present, although he can't do practically nothing, almost nothing inside only but to kill animals. That's the only thing that he can do, which in my house only the Oba or the sacrifice animals, and when I go to other houses only the Oba sacrifice animals. I mean, I have no problems with Babalao sacrificing animals, but a lot of people, a lot of us, we do still keep maintaining the tradition of Olorichas. Ifa with Ifa and Olorichas with Oloricha. It's not a matter of dividing it. It's a matter of that there are two different cultures, two different lands, and two different. So Chango is the king of the dead and not Oduduwa. Well, not that Chango was the king of the dead, but the Chango had the secret of Egun in earth, and that's what Oturanico says, that Chango transmitted the message of Egun to Olofin, so Olofin can stop all the killing in the earth. That Oduduwa did not have the communication of the spirits and Egun to communicate that to Olofin. Richard Perez says, Oba, is there any truth that one should receive for the dua late in life? Well, that is a myth. Nobody knows if it's true or false. What I can tell you is from my own experience. I can tell you about old people that have received for the dua and there been a mess in life, and they've received for the dua and they are still a mess in their life. And I know about a lot of young people, me as well, that have for the dua and they are very organized in their life. The only requirement that you will have to receive for the dua is to have an organized life. You don't have to own a house. You don't have to, I mean, whether you own a house or not, when you're going to move from one place to another. And who is going to be more important than the guardian angel? There is no Orisha that is more important than the guardian angel that you crowned. You can receive for the dua at any time as long as you have an organized life. Juan Gonzalez says, right. So this also gets rid of the myth that Chango is afraid of the dead. Right, Juan Gonzalez. Chango at no point in time could be afraid of the death, because there's a lot of songs in Egun of Chango. Soneli leo Egun awolo de Chango. Soneli leo Egun awolo da. Egun Chango Egun ile Egun baba Egun timbela timbeloro. Ochubani la Chango Egun ilaworo ibu Egun soguo iyagambele. Alex de la Vega says, if Osha and Ifa are two different lands, why do Obas read Ifa books for information on Oduns, and why follow philosophy based on Ifa philosophy? Well, Alex de la Vega, you see, it's not a matter of Ifa philosophy, African philosophy, which is the birth of humanity, is the land of Africa. It's not the land of Ifa, it's not the land of Nigeria, it's the land of Africa. That's why a lot of theology says that from Africa comes all beliefs and and theology ideas. Now, it's not a matter of Oba that read Ifa books. I don't know if any Oba read Ifa books or may not. I personally like to learn from every book whatsoever. I read Ocha book, I read Palo book, I read anthropology book, I read theology book, I read the Bible, I read Antichrist book, I read Ifa's book, I read everything. I read about Muslim, I read about Christianity, I read about Catholicism, because when you are literate, a kosher, an Oba, you see now everybody these days are an Oba and everybody these days are a Babalawo. Back then, a Babalao and an Oba had to be a priest that would know a little bit about anything. And I don't have to read about Ifa's secrets in order to read a little bit about Ifa and to know where did it came from. You see, the only thing that I have read of Ifa is where did it came from, where it was born, what purpose did it used to make before in human beings, what was the purpose of Ifa in the human being, and what is the difference of the cult of Ifa and Orisha, and that the names of the Erindilogun, the Dilogun, the Sisho, the names of them, of the Dilogun, were not born from Ifa at all. Because when you, ¿cómo tú dices sembrar? Cuando tú siembras semillas de calabaza.
Sembrar.
Cuando tú siembras, I mean, I don't know how to say this in English, but when you put a seed,
exactly.
When you put a seed of rice, that seed of rice cannot grow has been a bean. Rice is rice and beans is beans. So, you know, and guys, I want to announce to you guys my newest book. And what I'm explaining to you guys, I explain it in the book of Ebodestera. I tell everybody, I write there what is the difference of Dilogun and Ifa and why Dilogun are not born from Ifa. My new book, The Truth of Ochemegi. When you saw this new book, it's my latest book, The Book of Ochemegi. It has almost 500 pages. It's my newest book. It's available in English. We're gonna be printing 100 copies in English. This one is in Spanish, but it's gonna be available in English. It's a great book. It has more than 100 voices. It has of just Ochemegi. It has 63 pataquises of just Ochemegi. It tells you why the person that has Ochemegi in Orisha is not close to initiate other people in Orisha. Why the person that has Ochemegi in Orisha is not close to be an Oriate, to throw, to do divination with cowries, with seashells. And you know, basically it tells you everything you need to do about everything you need to know about Ochemegi. It has the participations of other Obases and other Babalaos backing up my what I'm saying, that Ochemegi have never had a prohibition of closing anybody, that was just a myth, that it came from the Cabildo, you know, and I explained everything here. The book also contains more than 500 pictures of ancestors. It has also pictures of Babalawos. It has also pictures of bases. You know, here we have Tomás Romero and Will Leti. We have Bernardo Rojo y Te Entendí. We have Juan Chiquitiroso Umbo. So this is a very good encyclopedia. This is Mercedes Rodriguez Oguntoyo, the godmother, the crown Ocha to Lamberto Sama. This is like the best encyclopedia that you could ever have. This is Eladio Papalote. It should be the famous Eladio Papalote. So whether you buy it in Spanish or English, guys, this is a book that you must have, because this tells you 400 years of history. It's a great book with with 350 pages of credible source literature written by me, and the other 100 pages the other 100 pages, it has over 530 pictures of ancestors. This is a legacy. You can get it at the website. Please type it out for them. You can buy it at the website davidalagayu.com. It has a price of $85. It's extremely cheap for the content and the amount of pages that it have and what it has inside. I'm getting the Spanish one for my dad. Great Mary, and you will not regret it. I'm sure that this is gonna be the best or one of the best books that you have ever purchased. And when you purchase it and you read it and you receive it and after you receive it, you read it and you analyze the content that it has, you're gonna be like, David was right 100%. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this live, for bearing with me on my accent. And you guys can go to davidalagayu.com and get the book, or the Yoko Ocha, or the Baluaye, or the Boetera. I have 4 books that I have written so far. And you guys can like this life and share this life. I will be very much in depth with you guys. I would be very much appreciated if you guys can share this life in as many groups that you can, including your personal Facebook. And you know, if you guys have any questions, you guys can message me to Center of Studies of Lugumi, or you can also message me to my private personal page, which is Obaudiate Davia Lagayu. Please follow me on my YouTube channel as well. You guys can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Obaudiate Davia Lagayu. It's also my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that in there. And in Instagram, my name is Obaudiate Davia Lagayu as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Juan, for staying unto the end. Thank you, Edgar. Yeah, thank you, Mary. Thank you so much, Mary, Maria, Larry, Alex De La Vega. Thank you so much for participating here. Richard, you know, we were few, but if I can get to teach at least 30 people, just only 30 people, and I can get 30 people to start thinking the right way, then you know what, you guys have made my day. Wow. And my godson, Chucky Coles, thank you very much for breaking new grounds. Thank you so much, my godson. I didn't thought that you stayed to the end. Shakira Samaniego says, thanks for doing this in English. Thank you, Shakira. I'm going to be doing this again soon. And you guys, you know, this is not only for the people who has, for the Olorishas that has Oshemeyi. This is for anybody that wants to know legacy and real history about the religion. Go to davidalagayu.com, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and kisses and hugs to everybody. Many blessings, and may Agayu bless you guys always. Today, tomorrow, and always. Blessings, guys. Bye-bye.